Norfolk Advisory Committee to order the meeting of March 26th. We have a member who's participating online, and we'll have another one joining us online. As a reminder, if you're going to speak or vote, you need to be on camera. I would ask anyone who's also speaking to keep yourselves on camera, which you are, and I appreciate that. I will take a roll call. Joyce Terrio.
Present.
Mike G.
Here.
Thais Hickman.
Here.
Rob Garrity.
Here.
Ken Fitzgerald.
Here.
David Lutz here. We may be joined by other members, but we have a quorum, and we'll get underway. Tonight, we are going to hear from the town's planning director and the chairman of the planning board. We have a number of articles on the warrant related to planning, and I should have opened the warrant before I started this, but we'll go through them in chronological order. There is an addition that doesn't appear on the version of the warrant we have. Rich, we'll leave that one till last, if that's okay. Article 21 is the accessory dwelling units bylaw amendments. We have the language, unless it's changed. If you would be so kind as to just I'll ask you and Chad to step up on this one and let us know what this is. We have an idea why we're doing it, but let us know what it does, and et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Chad, do you want to lead and I fill in, or vice versa, whatever?
I'll be honest, it's been a while since we talked about it, so.
Well, good, because I can't remember either, so.
We're doing this because the state, as you know, the state has a new accessory dwelling unit by right. So we as a town are taking a step to put a bylaw into place to manage how those by right units are placed, or how, we'll just say how they're managed with the town. And we are limiting them to one by right, and if the lot meets the requirements for additional, that would be through a special permit. And so we can go through the article in detail if you want, but those are kind of some of the headlines. Rich, I'm sure I missed one or two things on that.
We did discuss this at our first meeting in February, but you might, can you give us a thumbnail, Rich, of what the high points are? Yeah.
From the last meeting. So one of the things that we are waiting to hear back is from the Attorney General. So the Attorney General's office had offered to cities and towns to review bylaws prior to town meeting to make sure that what's being proposed meets the law itself, and then also how the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities established regulations for accessory dwelling units. So there was some adjustments that were made by the planning board from the February meeting, but we're waiting to hear back from the AG. In terms of the changes, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're substantial. One of the changes is that if someone was to do an interior renovation to their home for an accessory dwelling unit, it wouldn't go through a site plan review process. A site plan review process for additions to single-family dwellings, or if it's a detached, would go through the site plan review process. So there are a few things that, I'm sorry, I'll pause there.
Just to be clear, if the footprint or the envelope of the building doesn't change, it doesn't get a site plan review.
Correct.
Thank you. Keep going, sorry.
And then we added a couple provisions that Bob Bullock, the zoning building commissioner, had commented on, as well as Peter Diamond had reviewed it on behalf, was interested and reviewed it for the planning board. One is about impervious surfaces, having them be recharged so they would manage stormwater for the detached accessory dwelling units. We kept it in there, but it's possible the AG might suggest that's an overreach. Although I will say, as stormwater from the town side of permitting wise goes, we might very well see more stormwater requirements with single family home construction. It already occurs in subdivisions and in 40Bs, but for instance, somebody was, taking a raw piece of land along the street and building a home, we don't have any stormwater management requirements for that at this point, but that could be something that occurs down the road. So that's one provision that we're waiting to hear back on. Another one is more of a siting of a detached accessory dwelling units. As I did talk to you last month, the final regulations allow setbacks to be the equivalent of accessory dwellings. Our accessory dwelling bylaw allows to get as close to the side and rear yards equal to the height of the accessory dwelling, and does not allow it in the front yard setback. You can encroach, if you will, by special permit now on accessory buildings, but we actually went a little bit further in terms of accessory dwellings, say they couldn't be in front of the principal dwelling. So not only the front yard setback, but they had to be at least equal to the setback of the principal dwelling, as opposed to, say for instance, the house is set back 100 feet, you wouldn't be able to put an accessory dwelling in between that 50 feet and the principal dwelling. That might get struck in by the AG too, so we'll have to see how that goes. But
Can I ask a question?
and then
Oops, sorry.
the hearing's been continued to April 8th. April 8th is that's it. If we don't hear from the AG, the planning board will vote the final changes to it for the warrant. So that's where we're at the moment.
May I ask a question about the date, first of all, and then on the stormwater stuff? It's going to sound like a stupid question, but when you filed stuff with the AG, did you let them know? I mean, are they reading this stuff in the order of people's town's meetings? Or, you know what I mean? Were you like, we have to have these done by X because we have a town meeting, or, yeah?
Yeah, so town council, when they sent it off the AG, said we need it by X, yes.
All right.
Yep.
The impervious surface thing, just to understand, if you build an addition onto a building, it's not going to be covered by this, but if you put up a separate building, it would be covered by the stormwater, the impervious surface stuff?
No, the impervious still be covered, whether it's an addition or detached.
And
It just wouldn't come into play if it was obviously no.
would the remedy be you could have your gutters go into a French drain, or what is there?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You could put it into a French drain.
All
You just
right.
can't have free flowing off the structure.
Okay.
Chair, can I ask another question?
Yes.
Rich, what about like sewer and electricity? I'm assuming permitting would need to happen for that, for the accessible dwelling unit, is that correct?
Yeah, so the electricity, they'll have to get permitting from that with the electrical permits. We can't, that's one thing that we can't dictate, the regulations that were put out, we can't dictate in terms of electrical power, how it's to be done. On the water side of things, we just said it had to be potable water, either from a well or town water. It may come through the house to a detached It doesn't have to be a separate connection, but you need to have potable water for living, for
And-
habitation.
And septic is septic, obviously. Just a Title V.
Septic is septic, so it's a little bit, the DEP hasn't provided absolute guidance yet on septic, although my understanding is they're more likely, if you have a detached accessory dwelling, you could put in a separate system for the ADU.
You need a big lot.
And the reason,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I would suspect they're considering that is that if you have a system pre-Title V, you then end up, if you're tied into your existing system, you're gonna have to upgrade it to meet Title V. So they're giving, if you will, they'll still have to get a perk test, the whole
Right.
9 yards to get it approved, but
Right.
it could be its own little system.
So you're gonna need a giant lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some cases, yeah.
Did you have a question? Yeah, Rob.
I had a couple. So on the interior side of thing, where you don't have to go through site plan review, the requirement for parking would still stand if they're outside the half mile from the transit center, right? So
Yes.
is it just like a Boolean, do you have the extra parking or not? Is that,
No, that would be Boolean under the building department.
What does that mean?
like an yes or no? It's an
Say it out loud. Okay.
a yes or no. So they're not going to have to show where they have the parking. They'll just say, yeah, we have parking, because you're not doing a site plan review.
Typically, they get it built, well, there's usually always a site plan pretty much, unless somebody's has zero. There's not,
But we're not reviewing it. That's
but the planning board's not
what you're
reviewing
asking,
it.
Rob, is
Yeah.
that, no, we don't review it.
All right. So if I have to build an extra parking space for my ADU, I got to deal with that stormwater as well.
Just do gravel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If it's impervious, yeah.
So conceivably, half my house could be, could I put my water into rain barrels instead of a French drain?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, does that meet
your requirements?
I don't see why not. It's being contained and you're not openly discharging it.
Okay.
Until it's filled up and you haven't used it.
And then I just dump it out in the road somewhere. I would never do that. That would be.
We'll be watching.
Part of the budget asked for a bunch of inspectors to work for Rich to drive around looking at these things, so.
So, can I ask?
Please.
So, all right, I have very little experience with site plan review and how the planning board does it, because I did my years on the zoning board where we put the no in Norfolk. So, on,
You're not supposed to say it out loud.
let's see, provision E of design requirements, where it says, any person desiring approval of a detached accessory dwelling unit or attached ADU that expands, blah, 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 shall submit for site plan review. The planning board shall consider screening, parking in bulk, and height of the accessory dwelling unit in their decision. But there isn't a decision on site plan review, is there? I mean, it's, yeah, you've satisfied, you'd given me a site plan, and it ticks all the boxes. So what's the decision that's contemplated by this paragraph?
There is a decision. There will be a written decision from the board.
It'll be a written decision, but it's not like an approval.
Because it's by right.
Correct.
Yes.
So, I guess I don't
But if
know
you-
what you're getting at here. What's the test? The planning board shall consider screening, parking, and bulk and height of the accessory dwelling unit in their decision. Just is it a simple, yeah, you meet all the existing criteria,
did-
dimensionals?
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about this, I'll add this in. So in terms of the permitting process, there will be a notice provision. It will not be a public hearing.
Right.
But abutters will be provided notice when somebody proposes an ADU.
But the abutters could complain till Tuesday, and you guys aren't going to reject a site plan, right?
No, we're not going to reject this.
It's by
allowed
right.
by use, but it's one of those, I call it the good neighbor approach to things, right?
Yeah.
when you propose something, you have to hear from your neighbors, you think about your neighbors, kind of thing.
So you have no ability to say, we're not going to approve this one unless you do this? Or we're going to keep asking for
It's by
changes?
right, yeah.
It is by right,
right.
yeah, that's what I thought, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Well, 2 is a permit.
right.
You only put 2 on,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
get the full public hearing for 2.
Yeah, but the by right is just a permit process. I mean, if we, and I will say, like us and everybody else, this is a brand new, it's not, if this becomes, you know, pretty routine and things that, we could always come back to this too, but the approach now, policy from the planning board is to have it in place, you can always remove it. If you don't start with it, then you have this group where they, you know, didn't go through a process and then they're reversing course.
Do whatever they
So,
want, yep.
Yeah, so it's a more conservative, I'll admit it's a more conservative process, but
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it, Rich. We took a very conservative approach now, and we'll see what the AG comes back with too, because some of this may get stricken. There might be some modifications to it, but that's how we did start it.
There is a
the
chance,
statute does allow for site plan review, just to be clear, so it's not as if, you know, we're doing something that can't.
It's just not an approval, it's just a review.
Right.
Right.
but there is a
we
chance,
should-
go ahead, sorry.
And since you have a very large broadcast group that listens to this, I think it's important to remind people that there is a prohibition of Airbnb, the accessory
Yep.
dwelling unit too.
Thank you for that. But now, we could potentially, if the AG gets back to us on April 10th, have to do amendments
On the floor.
on the floor, right? You guys would have to make changes, and then we would have to accept them, right?
No, they would put them on the
Right, right.
floor as an amendment, and
Right.
the town meeting accepts them.
Is that, I'm drawing out a scenario here. So the AG gets back to you on April 10th. We vote on the
After we
9th.
close the public
You guys
hearing.
vote on the 8th, we vote on the 9th, and then on April 10th,
Yeah.
they say, yeah, you can't do that. Right, okay.
Yeah, if the AG comes back 2 days after the meeting, yeah, we have to do something on the floor. Hopefully, we're crossing our fingers. And
No, I understand.
And she's
I appreciate
listening.
that. Because we have a very
Yeah, our
wide
town
viewing audience.
council-
I'm sure she's tuned in tonight, right?
yeah,
And like Rich mentioned, our town council has been kind of gently reminding them of our dates and
Right.
and that we would like to have a decision prior to that we can have that and make changes before we close the public hearing.
Yep.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on this one?
Just one question.
Sure.
The prohibition on the Airbnb, is that a state prohibition or a Norfolk-specific prohibition?
so the statute specifically allows towns to be able to prohibit Airbnbs. It's optional. I mean, you can do it or you don't.
Short-term rentals, it's not, it doesn't say Airbnb, right?
30 days.
No, I know.
No, I'm being,
Yeah, STRs.
so, okay. And the flip side of that is you could still do it in your home, you just can't do it in your accessory dwelling unit.
Correct.
And that's in the warrant,
Yeah, the prohibition?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's built into
So
this.
you could
Okay,
move
yeah.
into your accessory dwelling limit and turn your home into the party house.
Jeez, Dave, you're telling
Whoops.
the dozens of people listening.
And for those of you who are having struggling to meet your mortgage.
The singles of people listening.
World Cup next year.
Yeah.
Big opportunity.
You said that last time we talked about that.
Big opportunity.
And it's 5 miles they could walk.
$25,000 a month for a 4-bedroom house
Gee,
for the month.
might get lost for a month.
And then $24,000 in damage to fix.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anyone else on this one? Article 22 is the EV charging station amendments. And Rich, I know we talked about these in February, but if you remember correctly, I limited questions at the time because I didn't want to spend all night then. So we're just going to spend all night now. So,
Okay.
so we've got Article 22 would amend the zoning districts to exclude the ability to build charging stations.
Yeah, and the bylaw is regulating commercial EV charging stations, not ones for home use.
Right.
Now, which I was watching the news yesterday, a bunch of neighbors decided to put an EV charging station, it could be sliding towards a commercial EV. But I don't know,
Same
I
person you
haven't,
are, but- Go ahead, Rob.
Well, so I assume this is off we cribbed this. This is a model bylaw that floats around. I've seen some of the same language in other bylaws. We didn't come up with this thing, I'm assuming. So
it's blended.
your
We took other
definitions.
examples and made it our own. And we had Peter Diamond review it, we had Bob review it, and planning board went through it. So it was, some examples that we had from other towns that then we made it our own.
All right, so you got electric vehicle charging station, electrical vehicle charging station commercial. All right, and the thing that makes it commercial, the difference is every charger within the group is owned and operated by a person or entity, comma. So first of all, everything's owned by a person or entity. So there was something else in that model bylaw after by a person or entity that meant something that got taken out somewhere. Because follow along the sentence, it's a charger owned by a person or entity. Of course it is, they all are, nothing's owned by nobody. But let's just move beyond that, comma. And which requires the users to pay the EVS owner a fee, right? It says everyone requires a fee. So could I set up a charging station that has a bunch of level 1s or 3s? It's been a while since I've charged an electric car. And has one of the crappy ones that's free, that nobody wants a trickle charge, and then that's not a commercial anymore?
So wait a minute.
And they're all connected?
Yeah, I've got this, I bought a nice little residential lot in town, I pulled down all the trees, and I put up 10 charging stations. 9 of them are, superchargers, and the 10th one is a 110 volt outlet that I can plug my hand charger into, which, it'd take me 4 days to charge my car. And that's free. You can sit there all day and charge your car for free. But you're going to pay for the other ones. And now I don't have to get regulated by you guys because I don't have a commercial charger. I got a regular charging station.
So, Rich, you started to talk about
You only have one, right?
But only for that one. But yeah, you're right. That
You're only talking
one.
about one.
Every EVSE, and EVSE is the electrical vehicle supply equipment. So you have one charging station with many EVSEs. The EVSE is the charger, right? So the paragraph says a charging station has multiple EVSEs, and all of them have to be paid for. You have to pay for the charge. So I'm a sneaky, snidely whiplash alternative car charger developer. I put up my one free one with my 12 pay ones, and I don't got to go through your permit process.
I think I have a response to that,
Yep.
Rob. And you guys, it says to an electrical vehicle. So in other words, a system is not multiple electrical vehicles. It's a single charger. Are you looking at the definitions?
EVSE. EVSE is the actual charger. Bink.
Designed to charge
Oh,
an electrical
yes,
vehicle, not
right.
several electrical
You
vehicles.
missed the statement about an electrical vehicle charging
So could you
station
guys take a look at this?
is made up of
I don't
many
think we can settle this
EVSEs.
right now. But it may be.
Well, the good news is the planning board continued this public hearing to April 8th, so there is room for.
So, Rob, what is that in the I'm trying to find
It's
where
in
you
the
read that from.
definition.
All right, so in the definition sections,
In the definition for the commercial,
Yep.
Well, first go to EVSE.
You got to go
Well,
to the
it's
definition.
after, right.
But I mean, that's the
Yeah.
logic, because
So-
EVSE, right, oh, sorry.
Right.
You-
No, go.
Well, right, if you look at the EVSE, whoop, I just lost it here, sorry. EVSE says each plug is a plug, and then the commercial says if your plugs,
Or a group.
if all of your plugs are for sale, then
Yep.
you're commercial, but Rob's pointing out, well, you can make one of them not for sale, and then you wouldn't be all for sale. Am I saying that right, Rob? Yeah.
we're done reading.
No, but.
Yeah, I mean, right, that's, so any or all, or something like that, I guess it would, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I interpret what you're saying.
Have someone take a look at that if you
Right,
could.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got
Well, maybe-
you've got 2 weeks now, so.
Yeah, it's too all-inclusive, and, yeah, okay.
So,
Point.
real quick question. All right, does anyone have any questions about the specifics on this? Because now I want to ask about the districts. Where are we allowing these now, and where are we not allowing them?
That is in the table right here.
There is an update to the use table.
They're,
So in the residential, they're by special permit of the planning board. The B1 district, they're currently already allowed, so there's no change there. The B3 let me
pretty much everywhere. except-
pretty much everywhere else. So C6, when we revised the C6 for the 111 Dedham Street, we added it then, at that time, because
Okay.
we did everything that was C6 related. It's always been allowed in the B1. Everywhere else it was a no.
Yep.
So we're changing all the other districts, B3, 4, all the Cs to yes, and residential is by special permit for commercial. These are all commercial.
I'd like to acknowledge that one of our members, Kevin Calcutt, has joined us. Kevin, have you joined us?
Yes, I have. Good evening.
When you speak or vote, make sure you turn your camera on. Thank you. All right, there he is. All right, Rob.
Okay, so you put in commercial is special permit in residential, yes, everywhere else, right? You didn't put in non-commercials. So if I'm reading the bylaw as to what is allowed, you've defined the non-commercial charging stations out in this bylaw. So you've defined this thing, which you now don't have allowed anywhere. And you should check with a lawyer, because as Dave points out, I'm not a lawyer. But if you've defined something and you don't put it in as being allowed somewhere, is it allowed everywhere? Is it not allowed? What's the status of it? If you really want to regulate these things, then we have to either say, yes, you can have them, or no, you can't have them, or they're special permits. So right now, I can come to you and say, I want a commercial one, and I can get it in my places, or in the residential, go in front of you with for a special permit, which I do want to ask also why.
Why a special?
Why do we want commercial charging stations in the residential? That's a separate question. My first question is, do we need to put the non-commercials in here as a category and just say yes all the way across?
So I saw Peter in the chat. The way these revisions were, there was the changes, so the 1 and 2s, the low-level chargers, you could put them in, use them. Those are regulated under the electrical code. The commercial ones, I call the fast chargers, are regulated through the site plan review bylaw, which is the commercial. They're allowed, all the districts, yes, and then the residential is by special permit.
But I can answer the residential question, because you may want to put them at the schools. You may want to put them at Pond Street. You may want to put them at a place where people park for any length of time that isn't in the downtown business district or on 1A. That would be the reason
Yes.
to allow them in residential districts by special permit. So if you wanted to put one in your backyard, you're going to have to get a permit for it. But if you want to put one at the schools because kids play soccer and baseball there for 15 hours on a Sunday, if someone wants an electric vehicle and wants to pay to charge it there, they should be allowed to pay, they should be allowed to build a pay system, don't you think?
Yeah, I think we should have special rules for municipal.
Pardon me?
I think we should have special rules for municipal sites.
Rather than allowing it anywhere in residential. But what about, I don't know, I guess, like Four Kicks is in a business district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like a multifamily, somebody puts up one of these new MBTA conforming multifamily things and wants to have a parking thing there? Is that considered, I don't know all the districts, so the areas where we could allow a one of those high density things where most of those big buildings now, those apartment complexes often have.
Well, 40Bs can go anywhere. So they could be in residential districts, for instance, like that,
Right.
or whatever the thing is on
But
Seacon.
stuff we've already zoned for, so.
Well, we're talking fast versus slow. I'll go that way. So the fast ones are the ones that are regulating where the locations. The slow ones, they are having to put those in residential.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're going to put a fast
Single
charger
families
in a resident, in
under the
a housing
code.
development.
Also, those apartment complexes have, seems like they have one you can put your credit card in, so I would assume that's a fast one. I don't know. That's a commercial one, right? Because you're paying for it, it's not free, whether it's fast
May
or
not be
slower.
fast, but it's commercial.
Yeah.
Peter, do you have any
So-
thoughts on this?
Rob, to answer your question, we did talk about creating a second line for non-commercial, and then we opted to remove it because it's already covered under the electrical code. So we're like, why regulate it additionally here when it's already covered elsewhere?
Okay.
And then in terms of those high-density residential projects, they would be going through the permitting process of the planning board, so they would really, permitting them essentially be added on. So if it ends up being a charging one, then it would be by special permit, but then the development would also be through a permitting process as well.
But if you wanted to put one in at River's Edge,
Well, that's actually one of the places I was thinking, here, right, in that,
it's in a residential, it's a mixed-use residential, but
but no, it's in
Well,
our...
it's actually
it's in our,
commercial.
it's called classified.
Oh, it's commercial?
The whole
Yeah.
thing is commercial? Oh,
River's Edge?
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I believe you.
And
Oh no.
No, look now.
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
And elsewhere in the bylaw, I think you stopped my Snidely Wishplash example because you say these are accessory uses. So I just can't build only chargers, right? Is that what it means when you say somewhere in the bylaw these are, you call them up in 310, 6.7 parking requirements. You call them accessory units somewhere in here. Yeah, B, 2B, applicability. So 2B is commercial electric vehicle charging stations installed in a residential zoning district or development shall require a special permit from planning board and shall be considered an accessory use. So that means I gotta have a primary use, right? Okay, I can't just take a piece of residential land, come into you guys, get lucky and get myself a little charging station without a house there or something else.
Well, if you're, actually, you could do that if you wanted to by special permit.
But by special permit.
Well, everything in residential, every
Right.
charger is
So it's
a
got a control.
special permit.
Right.
Okay.
Fast chargers are special permit.
You have a question, I can tell, Thais.
No, I'm just thinking
Okay.
about as example. I think it's a good point.
Yeah, the issue about the commercial, non-commercial mix might be something you might want to explore. And I can send Rob over and he'll I'm going to start, can you alert us to when you're having your hearings on these? So that
April
Rob
Yeah. He's already written it, Kat.
Cleared the night.
Does anyone else have any other questions on this one? Do you guys, so you've got a little bit of follow-up homework on this. I don't think there's necessarily any changes, maybe just answering some questions, but thank you.
Well, there's that one change to look at the
Right.
definition for commercial
Right.
charging station.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a raw provision. We have to.
I
do have a question.
I do have one. So, under design criteria, so that's 4 in that same section we were just in. On C, you limit to 20% the total number of parking spaces. I mean, I could see a point in time in the future where you would want 50% of your parking spaces to have some sort of charger. Now,
Some, in the relatively near future, theoretically.
theoretically, if all these plans are to come to fruition. Now, at the T, we would put in like, because I was thinking of the T originally, right? Because there's this wonderful idea about you just plug in at the T. But those would be trickles. Those would be level, the slow
You're
chargers.
leaving it there all day.
Yeah, those would be slow chargers. But, so why the 20%? Well, if somebody wants to come in and put in a third of their things as electric, what's the problem? If they want to throw their money away.
It's not a bad point. Peter, do you have a
Peter's
comment
got
on
his
that?
hand
Peter, do you have a way to address that or comment on that?
Can you hear me?
Could you turn the camera on? If you're able to turn the camera on, Peter, you're supposed to be on camera.
Here.
I think he's talking.
Peter, we can't, it's hard to hear.
If you can't hear, I'll have to step to the side.
Okay. So, it's not necessarily a bad point, but
Well, is it illegal to park a non-electric
well,
vehicle?
it depends.
So, I mean, is that
That'd be
why
a
they-
separate bylaw, that'd be like a
The
traffic and parking
operator,
bylaw.
or the operator makes that decision.
It's not a legal thing, it's a they don't want you there
Yeah,
thing.
that's, I'm putting 50 chargers in, if you park in front of one, you're not an electric car. I'm
But
not-
the 20% rule would seem to make sure there's enough room for non-electric.
Yeah.
But that's only an issue if you can't park in front of one of them, right? But, I don't know.
I would note, there are also the dog parking spaces. They're to be not put in the convenience spots. And I get what you're after there. You know, you don't want them used by non-electric cars.
Right.
All right,
Preferably, yeah.
Peter's
And he
gone
must have
off
dropped
camera.
off.
Chair,
It's almost like a separate bylaw, it needs to be added to the traffic and parking bylaws that the $20 fine.
Public ones, but for private ones, it's-
Well, we can afford like a handicap spaces or fire lanes.
yeah, no.
That would be hard.
It's the same as a handicap spot or a fire lane, many of those are on private, but
Right.
there's the right of enforcement, it's the public's right of access, so that's where that would have to be a separate piece put in there, probably by either these guys or the police chief, add that to there, and then it doesn't matter.
You do a license plate reader on all these machines, you know, eventually, and A, that's how they charge you, and B, if you sit there and even if you don't take a charge, it's $20 for using that spot. But
I just had a question about municipal use. So
Yeah.
if there were to be a station going into a municipal area, would the revenue come back to the town for the charging station? Or have we not thought about that yet?
I don't know if these guys can answer it, but I would suspect the answer is
Yeah,
yes.
they
it depends.
get, yeah, there's a piece to the, if it's on municipal, there's a piece. I forget what the numbers are, Justin might know.
But
We've
if
had
you- But if we got a grant,
we've had EV people coming already.
Rich, what was the question? Sorry,
that's-
Justin Castle, did I hear the question?
The question is,
If we're on municipal.
if we put
Go
a
ahead, sorry.
municipal charging station in, does revenue come back to the town for the charging station, from
Yeah.
the charging station?
So right now, we have a couple level 1 stations at the fire station, so that revenue does come to the town. And we've also had some EV companies approach the town, and they give you an opportunity to do where you take 100% ownership of them or 50% ownership. And so, yes, the revenue would come to the town.
So in that case, doesn't it make sense to have special zoning for municipal use somewhere in this chart?
to
I don't think
Rob's
it's
point.
necessary to let those guys.
To Rob's point.
Well,
It's not
we
really
gotta-
You
called.
only need it if you don't allow it in a district. Then you'd need the get out of jail for the municipal. But since we're allowing it everywhere, you don't need special for the town.
Yeah.
So you would still need a special permit?
Yeah, and I think under any circumstance,
You'd want to know what the town, I frankly want to know what the town's doing
yeah.
at Pondview.
Sadly, I think
Pond
the town would, a higher level of scrutiny from the citizens than like a private use.
But we're also probably not going to build them until we get a grant, so it's probably going to be, we'll know exactly how many. Is there anyone else have any questions on this? If Peter comes back, we'll be able to ask him a question. So the third article is the floodplain district. Again, I'm not sure we have a whole bunch we can do about this, but it's Article 23. It's the floodplain district changes.
Well, I would say I'm gonna look at it differently. I'd say we would need to do this. We don't want to not take action and
Right.
not be included.
But I mean, we're adopting maps that are produced by someone
Yeah. Right.
above us.
I think Dave's saying we don't need to talk about this one.
I didn't say that.
This is a.
I do have a question, but I do have a question. But go ahead.
No, I'm just saying
Okay.
this is.
Have you guys talked to the Conservation Commission about this? I was on the Conservation Commission for 5 years, and there were a floodplain map. It may have been more controversial because I think the planning board was like of two minds on whether or not they should adopt them. But as the conservation, because this affects the Conservation Commission as well, obviously, but puts certain things back into their jurisdiction under our bylaw, or used to at least. But are they?
It does actually. The conservation agent is the floodplain administrator.
Right, exactly. We didn't have a floodplain, we did have a conservation agent when I was on the Concom, but anyways, go ahead.
Can you explain why the date is in the future? The date of the
I
map?
suppose we could. Well, that's what we've been directed by FEMA to have the effective date. So
they published it, but it's not effective until July.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's already,
regulatory.
there's a report issued dated July 8th, 2025.
Because the
Yeah,
effectiveness
that's the
of it is
effective,
that
yeah.
date.
Okay.
So we're doing this because the federal government has come out with new floodplain district maps, and we update our maps
Correct.
accordingly, or we update our bylaws to reflect the maps accordingly. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, and about 4 years ago now, we updated the bylaw itself, so.
And I think this is going to happen on a fairly regular basis going forward.
Yes, it will.
It used to be a 10 to 15 year period, and that period is shrinking quickly, so. Does anyone have any questions on this one? All right. The next couple, and they probably could be addressed together, but the estate law permit time frame and the special permit valid permit time frame, are they related? Yeah.
They are, yeah. We're just mirroring what the state statute is for the permit.
Okay. So were we out of compliance with the state law, or did they change the state law and we're just?
Well, they changed the law, but we were really aggressive. Like, we were conservative, I guess. However you want to look at it, but you didn't have much time frame.
We gave people less time than the state law does? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, the town was.
Yeah.
In terms of how much time.
Okay. So we're now coming into alignment with the state recommended timelines on this?
Yes.
You couldn't go beyond those timelines, so I couldn't have them
No,
longer.
you couldn't go beyond, but yeah.
But we could have them less. And is there a reason we're doing that? A specific reason?
Yep. Absolutely.
And that is?
We are helping the people in the town of Norfolk. You can't imagine how many, I don't have numbers, I may be a little overvotes here, but we've had residents who applied for special permits, and between financing sometimes, contractors getting them, a year was just, it didn't do it. A year is really kind of pretty fast these days in times, trying to get everything lined up. So we had residents that were coming back that they needed to renew the permit because it expired.
Yeah. Or you have to do some sort of gymnastics in the meeting, like, oh, you moved these 6 rocks, you have started to execute the permit, so it's still active, or some nonsense.
All right.
That's what we used to do in the zoning board.
Does anyone have any questions on that? I have a quick question on it, actually, but, where was that? Is there a universe of estate lots that gets bigger or smaller, or are they basically, is that a known entity now? Or does it change? Because I know of people who have estate lots, I just don't know if there's a way to have future estate lots. So I guess if you subdivide a property and create one estate lot, when you subdivide it, you can have an estate lot at that point, right?
Yeah. Now, this will be a topic for a different day.
That's fine. So in other words, the answer is the universe is ever
There is an
changing.
estate lot, yes. There is an estate lot.
Okay, thank you. And then the last one, well, actually, we're going to talk road approvals too, but the last one is the ZBA and Planning Board Permit Granting Authority, which is Article 26. So what's going on here?
This is the one where you update the date of the master plan and you just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
site plan
We
approval.
updated it, yeah, so the change though, what's not reflected in what you're reading is that the planning board is gonna change it just current, so if the date changes, we don't need to change the date of the master plan. And then, well, the other section remains the same. We changed, so I added some language in terms of site plan review, because it was, the way it was previously, or the way it's currently written, it supposes that everything needs to go to the planning board for site plan approval, which there are special permits that don't trigger site plan review through the planning board. So we've added that language in there, and then instead of triggered, the planning board is going to say required. So it's just clearer for folks.
Cool.
That's on D6, Rich is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
And then, yeah, and then D7, we're changing it to current so that it's not tied to a date anymore. So you can see it hasn't been updated in quite some time because this is 1992.
And we've done at least one master plan since then, so, right?
We have.
At least.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one, the previous one was 2007, so.
So, we have a couple of road acceptances, which are filed by the
just one.
select board, but you guys have influence on that, obviously. But I have a question on the.
There's only one road.
Can I ask a question about the master plan stuff?
Sure.
Chad, at some point in the spring, we were talking, or in the fall, we were talking about your interest in making sure that the master plan implementation was underway. Is there a chance you guys are going to have a public meeting on that, or a public opportunity, or give us an update on that? I don't want it now. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, we can do that. We've talked to the select board about that. It's been a couple months, but yeah, we can give an update on that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Excellent. And the two road
There's
acceptance.
only one road, they're saying.
So one of the
Just
roads
one
is
road.
not getting accepted now? Because.
We said it might not be ready at the first meeting.
Yeah, but it's on the list, that's why
Oh,
I'm
I see.
asking, so, I think, right?
So you can remove it. So MacArthur Ave, you can remove.
So Avery Way,
Executed version, that will be removed.
Okay.
The board's going to execute the warrant at their next meeting.
okay, so Avery Way, everything's all set there?
Yes.
Where is Avery Way?
Waiting, it's off of Village Green. It's the Enclave, the 55 and over,
Yep. Okay.
40B development.
One of their, is it a new, was it an improved road under the original approval on that, and then just got built, or?
It was.
It's just built.
It's done.
Yeah, okay, cool. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Do we have any questions for Chad and Rich while we have them?
Don't you guys have another one?
Yeah, we have another one, but you'll want.
Oh, that's right, I pushed it, it's not on my list. We have a new warrant article, which we found out about yesterday. Rich or Chad.
Is that the email
or Justin?
from
Yes, it is.
someone somewhere?
Yep. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah.
And do you have a presentation on
We did
this?
send you over I'm sorry, Dave, what's that?
There is a presentation. Do you think you need to pull it up or not?
It's up to you.
Well, it's kind of up to you.
I think it'd be helpful to
Okay.
explain it.
Please pull it up then.
We'll put it up.
It's the one that
So
Rich sent yesterday.
I'll screen share it.
MBTA zoning is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is modifying the MBTA overlay district. And it's kind of the off, what's the exact word? It's the secondary district, which is not in the downtown, so it's in the Pondville area.
Can you, on our,
Do you see the slides? I don't know.
yeah, but
Yep, I see
can you
them.
grab that and slide it?
That's NCTV controls that.
Can you move they're in the middle of the screen, the participants. Can you move them to the side? Are you able to do that? That's fine here.
This one,
This one here,
they're blocking the,
they're,
I think you just have to move the window over.
you have to physically like slide them over. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, there we go.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect. Thanks. All right, go ahead, gentlemen.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead, Rich.
So as Chad mentioned, the proposed amendment to the Pondville MBTA overlay district. Why are we doing it? It's providing a potential alternative option to develop multifamily on the proposed site of Pondville Crossing. I'm going to go to the next slide so you can see. So if you see outlined in red, these are, this group of properties represents the proposed site for Pondville Crossing, which is a 200-unit 40B development. On the left side this is Pine Street, 115, Valley Street, Hill Street to the top of the screen on the north, and then running along this east side is the former railroad right-of-way proposed site of the Metacomet Greenway. As you probably, if you haven't seen the comments that went into mass housing, there was concerns about the number of units and the potential impacts associated with a 200-unit 40B development in the Palmville area. And just for context, in the middle of this, if you see where my cursor is moving,
Yep.
those two properties have a 59-unit multifamily 40B project eligibility letter that was issued last fall. So between these two sites, approximately 259 units could be realized. The thought that with the MBTA overlay district, which is 18 dwelling units per acre, by floating that over this site, it could be reduced by 60 units without doing anything essentially in terms of any permitting process, because it prescribes 18 units per acre. The site is 7¾ acres, so you just do the math. And so that's why it's being proposed as an alternative. The developer doesn't have to go this route. They can continue the path they're on, which is a 40B if they choose. But there was thoughts that perhaps the town could propose an alternative. Maybe it's advantageous for them and overall advantageous for the town to go this route. It's certainly, and this opportunity would only happen if this happened at the May town meeting.
In other words, he's in the pipeline far enough that he's not going to turn around unless he gets a...
Yeah, he's awaiting a project eligibility letter, so, which comments were due 2 weeks ago. So typically, it's about a 2-month turnaround for mass housing to issue one of those letters. So if this was available, then they would consider it. If it waited to the fall, they're tracking through, going through the 40B. As some know, some may not know, reducing density through 40B process has to be specific to the impacts associated with it. It's not just, we want less, you make it less. That's not, it has to be a nexus between reduction. There's been quite a bit of comments about the impacts in terms to traffic, stormwater, et cetera, impacts on the adjacent neighbors. So this is something that's being proposed. I'll go to the next slide. So if you see this yellow, it's a little bit hard to see, but that is the existing overlay district that was adopted in May of last year.
Rich, when you say yellow, you mean the yellow that's at the upper left corner, right?
No, in the middle of the screen, the yellow over the purple.
There's
light
yellow?
purple,
Oh,
violet.
that's sort of orange.
This is like a registry test, I don't know. See any yellow?
It's kind of orangey to us, but go ahead.
Blue dress, it's not a
All
white
right.
dress.
So this is the same area just shown. You see this area
Right.
now in the middle of the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are the parcels that are under the present MBTA overlay for the Pondville area.
So can I ask a
next slide
question?
is-
Was there any,
Sure.
seriously, was there any consideration into adding the two parcels that are in that little V at the top of this parcel? In addition, the guy who has the 59.
He would be in it.
Oh, he is, so that,
Here.
go back to that, can you go
Yeah.
back to the original map?
Right.
Like 2 slides or whatever. I just want to make sure
How many less do we get on the 59 then?
So it would be,
Yeah, so if you see.
it would
see
be
this
everything
line
inside
here?
the red plus the stuff in the V that's stuck in between the red there?
Yeah, so his site's already in.
Oh, it is already in,
MBTA,
okay.
except for this little triangular piece here.
Okay,
So we would be adding it
all right.
in.
Does that cut down his 59 though by adding it? Does that drive that down a little
It
bit?
could, yeah, yep,
It could if it chooses to go that route.
Right.
yeah, same,
No.
same, it could.
Rich, Chad, I talked to Rich about this yesterday. I understand that this is, and Rich makes that point on that first slide. This is not our choice ultimately, but it is our effort to mitigate their choice, I guess would be the way to say it,
Yeah.
By changing the zoning?
by allowing them for more density than we have now, but less density than they get through 40B. And this is like 259 new cars down there.
How many students in the
Yeah,
school
well,
that
there's
can't
that
fit
too,
them?
yeah.
And he also gets less affordability, so he gets more market unit.
Right,
Yeah.
which means he can make more money off of less density.
Right.
Yeah.
Rob?
And the ratio of bedrooms changes when it's MBTA versus 40B.
Right.
Yeah, so just kind of a little correct. Yeah, I think you made all the points on this next slide. So in terms of the 40B, they're required to have 10% 3-bedroom units, not the case under the MBTA zoning. The proposed 40B right now actually has 20 units of 3-bedroom, just for information purposes. Now, in terms of counting though, we only count what's affordable under the MBTA overlay district, whereas the 40B, we would get market rate plus affordable, so everything would count. So there is a distinct difference between the two.
Which,
But there's much thought given to the fact that striving to get a better project, even with less affordable units, might be the greater goal here from a better overall project side.
okay. Rob, did you have?
And last,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rich.
the last piece about the MBTA overlay district, there are monies and grants available for MBTA districts. So if it were floated here and we need to look at some grant options to address infrastructure needs, it would open that door potentially to us too, so.
Go ahead, Rob. I'm thinking through my questions.
So the thing we're giving up is, while people think that 40B is a blank check for developers, it really is a negotiation process, and towns are able to secure mitigation for problems they see. Okay, so as a part of your comprehensive permit, we're going to make you do these off-site improvements up the street, and we're going to make you do this, and we're going to put that, and
You're going to ask them to do this.
you're negotiating it, right? You're not going to have granite curbing, but you're going to do X, Y, and Z. What's the permitting regime in the MBTA area? That's by right, isn't it?
It's by right through the planning board.
Through the planning, yeah.
But with rules.
But you can't like okay, we want
You can't
crosswalks here, here, and there,
negotiate,
and we want you to pay for sidewalks over there. Okay, I just want to think that through.
Which, I guess, here's my question, try to say it politely. Which option makes less 3 bedrooms? Because the 3-bedroom is probably going to draw more kids to the schools that we've already heard can't fit them. So which one is more 1 and 2 bedrooms, which is hopefully more likely your couples, singles, that sort of thing, versus, the 3-bedroom you're talking probably some school-age kids, and even if there's 20 of them, that could be, 20, 40, 50 school-age kids that we've heard there's nowhere to put.
Well, I would suggest it would be the MBTA zoning. Because again, you're not having to, first of all, you don't have to, MBTA requires you, the 40B does require you to have 3 bedrooms. The MBTA zone does not. So right off the
But
bat.
ultimately, it's the developer's choice, though, right?
Right.
They can still build them.
Yeah.
They just don't have to build them.
Yep, it's the developer's choice and whatever economics work out for the developer, but my gut tells me that he's not going to build the bigger units. It's going to be more economical to make more of the smaller units.
I saw the site plan, by the way, which is hard to see on this, but the parking is scary for the 40B zoning.
How so?
There's just a lot of parking from a traffic impact perspective. And that area, I know it's got some wetlands between that property and 1A. So
Yeah,
there's some there will be issues with build out on the whole lot, right? I'm guessing. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Conservation's pretty limited.
Okay, it is. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just in the upper top corner on Hill
Right.
Street.
Is there sewer down there, or?
It's
No, so
septic would be limiting, right? Or would they?
They're doing a packaged wastewater treatment plant.
They are. Okay.
Where are they putting it?
So you see my cursor move around this wooded area? That's the discharge field, and the pumping station is right over in here.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, so I think I've got the pros and cons, but if you could just sort of articulate what would make this a better project. I guess that's what I'm, because there's all these trade-offs between, size of house, number of houses, number of whatever units, but by doing this, what do we see as makes it a better project for us?
So you have this in your, this was sent to you today.
Yeah.
And I can't read it, that's why I'm pointing.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've looked at it.
I could pull it up, I guess.
So in terms of better project, I guess I would say, first off, less impact. I mean, it's just, it has much, right off the bat, it's not going to have the sheer impact that 200 units would, in a variety of different ways.
Because there's fewer units.
Because there's fewer units.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Is there more tax revenue from the MBTA version because we're assessing those as regular full-price condos versus, I don't know, how does the 40B get assessed if you pay $150,000? Is it assessed as that, or is it assessed at the $500 it's really worth?
Assessed at the 150, because it's restricted.
Right, so the MBTA, even though there's less units, might drive more tax growth? Maybe? Justin? Anyone? I'm not sure. Thoughts?
No, it's an interesting question, Bob. I mean, there will be less, good.
Yeah, how does an MBTA?
Can we ask someone at MAPC that question? Do they have like a little tool that they can run this stuff through?
Well, I mean, it's only 15 if the units are
No, yeah, I
a
agree.
third of the
No.
price.
No, you're absolutely right.
There's going to be more more new growth for the
Right.
town on the MBTA version, I think.
One $450,000 condo is.
So it is, so just in terms of, it is rental, so there are no, in terms of.
So this is an 100% rental?
Yeah, it's 100% rental.
Okay. And there's no ability,
There'd probably be an income approach, I would imagine, for the assessment and the valuation of it, so.
Which is why you get 100% of units under 40B. Rental units all count. It's not the same with home ownership units. Okay. I was wondering why, when you said they all counted.
and can this be condoized in 10 years?
If it was MBTA,
Yeah, or either one. No, not if it's a 40B, obviously, but,
I don't think you could do it if it's 40B, but if it's MBTA,
Well, I don't think, actually, that's an ownership, but I don't think it.
Is it
I don't
one-
think that either one makes a difference.
so is his 40B a bunch of buildings? Or is it one it's one,
It's,
it's more than one building,
four.
obviously, right?
Yeah, it's 4 buildings. Yep.
Yeah, so you could mix and match, maybe. I don't know. All right, never mind. I'm just
Can I ask a question?
speculating. Please do.
Where are we in terms of percent for 40B requirements? I heard we are not at the 25% threshold, so
10% threshold. We're not close.
It's 10%, and we're not at 10%, we're just under 5.
Yeah, so it's not like we're that close,
so
This would get us, the 40B would get us closer.
Yeah, but
are we going to get, what are the repercussions if we don't hit the 25%?
They can keep doing
doing
10%.
40Bs.
It's a 10%. It's not 25%.
Yes,
But
it's
they
10%.
can keep doing 40Bs. Until we hit the threshold, we cannot say no to a 40B. So it's,
So we talked to Sue Jacobson about this the other night, and she reiterated the fact, she's like, look, we should not be in a rush to get to that. We should do things in a mindful manner. She has a very well-run housing trust, and the state looks at us as a model for that. I mean, we do really well. She does a really well job with that. We have, in addition to this, there's several other 40B projects in town. So let's just say we get this approved, this MBTA overlay, and the developer decides to go that route. There's several other 40B projects that would still get us to that goal of 10% here if they were all to get built. So this was just trying to provide another mechanism for this developer to not build such a congested project.
So-
we don't know if he's going to go that route, but
Chet.
it's another opportunity.
Chad, are you saying that we're in range of 10% with what we've got kind of in hand?
No, not.
That's sort of what you said.
No,
But we would get closer if they all got built. We'd be closer to 10%.
it would be a lot closer.
But we're not going to get to 10% with what,
But how many housing units are there in town?
3,000, well, right now, hold on. I think we're at 37, let me just look.
3,700, let's call it?
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 is 370. Where are we now?
5. So it's.
We're just
500.
So it's.
We just, Sue put it in to add up, so we'll be up to 177 affordable units.
177.
This would put us over the top if it was a rental.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, so that would get you to, okay. Huh, that's interesting. But
Yeah,
you're
so
saying
what-
there are other in the pipeline. Go ahead.
And
But there's others in the
Yes.
pipeline.
If you permit it as is, yeah, it'd be, and that's the, however, there's a cost associated with permitting at this level.
200 units in Pondville.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
And
Well, it's
every
not
unit will be
59,
affordable.
it's 59, well,
But they would count.
Yeah.
But they all count.
Rentals, the whole project counts. This is right, guys? I'm not making this up.
no, that you're correct, they all count for rental. Yeah.
they all count, but he can charge market rent for
Yeah.
most of them.
But if it gets us...
Except for that
if it
certain
gets us to this- If it gets us... to
Yes,
this
75% of them will be
Control.
market rate.
And for the 40B rate, isn't it like an average of what the, based on the
It's
average?
based on median.
Median income,
Median.
80% of median income.
Yeah, 80%, yeah.
And that's it's the family of four median income. It's not like a single person.
But it's the rental, they're just gonna take the voucher.
No,
There's
no. No, it goes person per household.
Yeah, so it's
There's
sliding.
a
So
income
for
for
your
1,
single
2,
bedroom,
3.
it's, yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Kevin has a hand up, I don't know.
Kevin, do you have your hand up? Yes, you do. I can't see it, sorry.
Yeah, while the former planning board and select board member of me is having a conniption at the range of conversation going on right now, I did want to just throw a couple of things in there. Rich, way back when, I do remember the justification for the scale of the number of units that the developer was proposing was based on a balance pro forma to justify the installation of on-site wastewater. So if we're going to propose and say that 140 units would be the new max for an MBTA overlay, does that mess up what's been communicated thus far in terms of what he needs to be able to put wastewater management on site?
Well, we're looking at a few things that kind of help address that wastewater package treatment plant cost. One is, there is the 59 units that's proposed right next to them, which could flow into that. And then there was another option now, it's not been vetted enough to really kind of talk about, but there's another user in that area of town that potentially could use sewer flow.
Got it. I don't know if you can see my eye twitching from the capacity wastewater management deals being made, but it is right now. And so, it's good that it's being addressed in some way, shape, or form. The other thing I wanted to add.
And just to caveat, just to your twitching, this will be all private. This is not, it's all stays private.
The last one was private too.
Not coming to the town side, just bringing people together.
For now.
Yep.
It was private. It's not.
Until it fails.
Rich, the other thing that I just wanted to make clear, I like the bullets that you showed here that kind of put against a 40B and what the MBTA overlay would be in total. But when you mention the other 59 on top of that, how does that play into this? You're saying that it's going to be connected, it's going to be part of the same development, or it's going to be a separate project altogether?
It's separate. Yeah, it's
But potentially tied into the septic wastewater treatment plant. That's what you said.
I'm hoping my larger planning vision is that they could still be separate, but they're interconnected in lots of ways in terms of how things circulate and operate to kind of help with impact in the neighborhood, particularly Hill Street.
It originally started as one big project, and then for reasons that we don't know why, it split. And so now the Pondville Station, which is the 59 unit, that was presented as a 40B last fall, whereas Pondville Crossing was just recently. That's the 200 unit.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be worth it, Rich, to be able to cite a pros and cons about going 40B and not. I think that Rob made a good point before, highlighting the fact that should the project move forward as proposed as a 40B, that would put us over our 10% and would actually give us some cushion going into the next census. So we might be good for at least 15 years if that were the case. But I do think that there are some much more prioritized benefits to going MBTA. I just don't know if showing it side by side would be of value for people or not.
No, I think it's
I think
it's worth
Yeah,
trying to put something together like that.
So,
Yeah.
Just to let you know, this has just risen to the top of the longest debate we're going to have at town meeting this spring, so.
Yeah.
Well, just the title does not speak to the fact that we're expanding MBTA.
And I'm not busting on your chops, even though I'd like to, but it's just the reality of the situation.
You think this is worse than pickleball?
It's going to be worse than, they're asking for an extension on the pickleball project, and this is going to be worse, so.
And it's
Joyce, do you have any questions? You're looking, Joyce is leaning forward like she might have a question, but I can't tell. No? No questions, Joyce? No? Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions for these gentlemen? All right, thanks. We're going to be voting on this over the next couple weeks, so just keep that in mind. We may ask for participation at some point.
Is this closed as far as you guys are concerned?
No, the hearing's not until the 8th.
No.
Okay.
Hearing's on the 8th. Sue Jacobson just joined as well, if you had any questions for her.
The hearing's on the 8th.
Why do you plan on coming to the meeting on the 9th, if you don't mind? That's when we would be voting on it.
It's already in the calendar.
All right, thank you. Late nights, 2 nights in a row. Thanks for that, so. Anything else, guys? Gentlemen, ladies? No? Folks on camera? No? Thank you, gentlemen. At this point, we're done with...
That's it for us.
That's it for you.
You're released.
Okay, thank you.
We are done with our formal agenda. We do not have minutes. And Melissa's not here, and we'll take care of those next week. Sue Jacobson has just joined us. I know she just walked by, and she could have come in and spoken to us in person. But Sue, do you have anything you'd like to add to the issue we were just discussing now that the planning board folks have left? Sue?
Sue has sometimes had some technical difficulties. Sue, I think you're talking now and we can't hear you.
There she is.
Yeah.
So we're still talking about the previous article, I think.
Yeah. I think they
She's coming to
definitely
join us,
should
right?
lay it
Like the
out
Dylan
side by
song.
side, the pros and
Yeah.
cons of MBTA versus 40B.
I feel like we could sit here and debate this topic for a half hour.
right.
It's
Yeah, I don't want to do
here's the
that.
public safety opinion. The public safety opinion to me is
That's a nightmare.
whichever one. It's a nightmare, and whichever one. If the MBTA means less
Sue
units, less
Jacobson.
units.
Sorry, I'm here to meet somebody to sign paperwork, one of my buyers, otherwise I would have stopped it.
Would you like to comment on the stuff we just discussed?
I just really tuned in to see if, I missed obviously the
Yeah.
conversation. Just if you guys had any questions of me.
I think we mostly answered them. We had questions about the 10% target. We think we know where we're at with that. We will be voting on this on the 9th. They're hearing these articles on the 8th. I think if anything comes up between now and then, we'll make sure, or they'll get a hold of you, so.
I think the planning board sort of represented a position of Sue. Maybe we want to check that.
Which is that
You were more in line with,
you thought that rushing into things is, I mean, taking your time to make decisions on individual projects is kind of your approach, I guess, would be.
I think it's much more important than racing to get to 10%.
Okay. They gave your position accurately
Great,
then? Okay.
they were absolutely right.
All right. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
So we are now done with our formal agenda. Next week, we'll be hearing from the Select Board and Justin on the final budget discussion. We will be voting on things next week, as well as the week after. And I'm hearing...
What is that noise?
We're hearing chipmunks.
These microphones.
I think it's Sue's.
Oh, at her desk. Okay.
Oh, she's hearing, it's us talking.
Can anyone
No.
mute her or
I
boot her?
think you can.
Yep.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
We don't have any minutes. I think we're done unless anyone has anything they'd like to talk about.
I don't have, I just a question, I was just going through, did we hear about the kennel? Or is that, did I miss that?
Yeah, we did. I gave an
I was
update
missing-
because
Okay.
Ollie's Law, right? This is
Yeah.
something to
I
do with
missed a couple
Ollie's Law.
meetings. Maybe
it was, yeah, and I can update it again when we get to it.
Okay,
Or
that's fine.
I can ask Carol to come to that meeting, but
It's okay, I wasn't sure.
Was to match something up with that new Ollie's Law.
there's a federal law, there's a state law that we need to
Okay,
mirror, so,
groovy.
okay.
So, sorry, what is next week? Are we meeting?
Next week, we're hearing final numbers on the budget and talking about the budget for essentially the last time. We have to wait until the meeting on the 8th to vote on all the planning board stuff that's still got a hearing. So next week's the budget, and we will start voting on articles.
We can vote
next
for
week.
some things, right?
Okay.
We'll probably do all the easy ones next week, and I'll talk to Erica about what the easy ones are. They're the ones that happen normally. I will say, it's not likely that the 2 citizens petitions are going to be withdrawn formally because it requires all of the 10 signatories to agree to that. We're not sure we're going to get that, which means we will be voting on those. And at this point, my recommendation is to indefinitely postpone them. Just not vote no, just push them. But it will be on the floor of town meeting, so,
Okay.
yeah. Any comments or questions from anyone on the committee? Thank you. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I think I have to take a roll call on this because I have 2 remote participating members. Joyce Terrio. You're muted, Joyce. Kevin Calcutt. Would you like to adjourn, Kevin?
I was waiting for Joyce to go off mute, but Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Mike G.
Aye.
Joyce Terrio, aye. Thais Hickman.
Aye.
Rob Garrity.
Aye.
Ken
Aye.
Fitzgerald, aye. David Lutz, aye. Thank you all. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.